The husband came home with a large bouquet of flowers in his hand. However, the wife did not seem very happy. The husband did not pay attention and just turned on some melodious music. Then he gently closed the curtains. Unexpectedly, the next second, he brutally beat his wife. After being satisfied, the husband gently handed the bouquet to his wife. The poor wife did not dare to resist at all. She voluntarily pulled her husband into the room. 10 minutes later, she lay motionless on the bed. Hui Seo had to go through this almost every day. Perhaps her only hope was her close friend named Yun Su. Yun Su was a very responsible female manager. She worked at a luxury brand store. Today, while working, she met a customer who looked extremely elegant and luxurious. Yun Su introduced him to a limited edition watch model with 90 diamonds. The watch the customer was looking at was the thinnest automatic watch in the world. After thinking for a while, the customer decided to try on the watch. It really suited his luxurious temperament. However, he still wanted to see other models. Yun Su showed him a model without diamonds. In the end, the man left without buying anything. However, something strange happened. When the inventory staff at the end of the day, they were horrified to discover that the limited edition diamond watch had mysteriously disappeared. That day, only Yun Su had received the customer and held the watch, so she had to take responsibility for handling the case. Through checking the security camera, the suspect was quickly identified as the customer, named So Baek. He had the missing watch on his hand. He even confidently glanced at the camera as a challenge. This was clearly a professional thief. According to regulations, before reporting to the police, Yun Su had to report the incident to the head of the department. However, this guest was invited by the chairman of the board of directors. He was not on the official guest list. Yun Su asked for So Baek's business card from the chairman. She then immediately went to his company. However, So Baek was strangely calm in front of Yun Su. Yun Su could not help but ask about the whereabouts of the watch. At the same time, she wanted to get it back. So Baek explained that the watch was not with him because he had used it as a gift. He promised that if the recipient liked it, he would pay immediately. The sales would be credited to Yun Su. Although helpless, Yun Su did not dare to offend a VIP customer, so Yun Su had to stay at So Baek's company. She waited until the end of work in the hope of getting the watch back. He then gave her a piece of paper with a few words written on it. That evening, Yun Su received a call from So Baek. He asked her to come to the second floor of a commercial building. There, Yun Su saw So Baek playing mahjong alone. He then calmly took out the watch from his pocket. She was delighted and immediately took out a special tool to check it. Fortunately, the watch was real and had no problems. However, there was a small scratch on the strap. For a limited edition watch like this, even a small scratch would make it unsalable. So Yun Su wanted So Baek to buy the strap. Yun Su explained that it was a high-quality crocodile leather strap, and only 100 were produced each year. Although it was not cheap, it matched the valuable watch he was wearing. Hearing this, So Baek immediately offered 5 million won. He then asked her why she worked so hard. She honestly replied that she hoped to be promoted to a higher position in the company. So Baek then suggested that they have a drink together to see that they had settled everything. So the two of them started drinking. When Yun Su was a little drunk, So Baek suddenly said that he discovered that inside her was a crazy woman. This made Yun Su feel confused. After drinking, So Baek also paid 5 million won for the necklace. The next day when Yun Su returned to the store, her colleagues kept praising her ability. She didn't expect that in just one day, she could negotiate with the difficult chairman. Soon after, Yun Su saw her best friend's husband come to the store to buy a necklace. She felt that this was very strange because today was not her friend's birthday. During the conversation, an employee told Yun Su that he often came here to buy jewelry. Just as Yun Su was about to turn away to call her friend, the phone rang from another customer. She hurried back to the store and was surprised to see a rich woman collapsed on the floor. It turned out that the woman had an injury on her back, so she couldn't zip up her skirt. When Yun Su saw the bruises on the woman's back, she was even more shocked. It was obvious that this rich woman had been abused for a long time. When she just stood up, her husband had just arrived. She was immediately scared. Then she quietly followed her husband. Yun Su wanted to find a way to help her, so Yun Su recommended a pair of shoes that matched her outfit. However, the rich husband just coldly glanced at Yun Su and said that they could deliver the shoes to her house, so the woman timidly followed her husband. In the evening, Yun Su went to the taekwondo gym. This was the place she often went to every day. This was her only pleasure outside of work. The scene during the day made her suddenly think of her mother, so she called her mother. A few days later was her mother's birthday. She bought a cake and went back to her hometown. Her younger brother also came back soon after. The whole family celebrated their mother's birthday together. The atmosphere seemed extremely warm and happy. However, Yun Su's father was an abusive man. That very night, she witnessed a horrible horrifying scene. The next morning, she took her father to the police station. He even tried to justify himself, but she saw through his nature. She advised him to honestly confess. Then she drove away alone. On the way back, Yeonsu decided to stop by to visit her close friend Hui Seo, but Hui Seo didn't seem to want to see her. At this time, a delivery man came in. Yeonsu followed him to Hui Seo's front door. However, Hui Seo was clearly avoiding Yeonsu. It turned out that Hui Seo was also a victim of domestic violence. Out of concern for Hui Seo, Yeonsu went to the police station to report it, but they were completely indifferent to this matter. The next day, Yeonsu brought the receipt and warranty card of the watch strap to meet So-baek. He took the initiative to invite her to have a friendly meal before leaving. While eating, she happened to see the news about the woman from the day before. It turned out that she had done something stupid. Yeonsu immediately called her younger brother to confirm whether her mother was safe or not. Then she continued to call Hui Seo, but no one answered. Yeonsu started to panic and she rushed to Hui Seo's house. When Yeonsu arrived, she happened to see Hui Seo about to jump out of the window. Yeonsu quickly ran to pull her friend down. At the same time, she comforted and consoled her until she calmed down. Yeonsu couldn't stand it anymore, so she suggested that they get rid of Hui Seo's husband together. Hui Seo was a talented children's story writer. It was just that she was unlucky to have an abusive husband. Only a day later, Hui Seo changed her mind. She decided to go to the mall to see Yeonsu. Then she hurriedly went to the airport because she didn't have the courage to kill her husband. She decided to run away and disappear completely. Before leaving, she picked up her mother from the old nursing home. She needed to arrange a new place for her mother. She also recorded a video as a souvenir. However, just as she was about to board the plane, she received a call from her husband. She resolutely turned off the phone. Unexpectedly, her husband had kidnapped her mother. He called her on video to threaten her. He only gave her 2 hours. If she didn't come back in time, her mother would be in danger. Hui Seo was extremely scared. She ran home and found out that her pet cat had been killed by her husband. Her husband was a stock trader. Every day at 5:30 am, Hui Seo had to prepare beetroot juice for him. He always warned that no matter where she ran, he would find her. Only when her husband went to work did she feel a little more at ease. The prolonged depression led to her abusing alcohol. Every day she felt like she was in prison. After drinking, she sought some sense of security in the storage room. However, that day she overslept. When she woke up, it was already past 7 p.m. If she did not prepare dinner before her husband returned, the consequences would be dire. She hurriedly cooked. In a panic, she accidentally dropped the pot lid. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. She was so scared that she stood still. Fortunately, the stock market was good today, so her husband did not attack her. After that, he installed a surveillance camera in the living room under the pretext of caring for her. Every day after eating, the first thing Jinpyo did was check his wife's phone. After seeing nothing unusual, he would take out a gift. Every time her husband beat her, Hui Seo received a gift. Up to now, she had accumulated a whole cabinet of gifts. In the evening, Jinpyo received a call from his mother. She said that she wanted him and his wife to attend her speech tomorrow. He started choosing a dress for Hui Seo, but he found that none of them could cover the bruises on her body. In the end, he had to choose a long-sleeved outfit instead. Ironically, the topic of his mother-in-law's speech was related to domestic violence. Actually, Hui Seo had tried to find a way out of this situation. She went to the hospital to check her injuries and collect evidence. However, when she was about to report to the police, she happened to meet her husband's younger sister, Jin Young. She hurriedly left and accidentally bumped into a police officer, and papers were scattered everywhere. She quickly picked up all the papers and went out, but after going out, she realized that she was missing the hospital's test results. Jin Young had taken them from the police, so Jin Young chased after Hui Seo and asked if her best friend was having this problem. She also specifically advised them not to report to the police, because most domestic violence cases are not solved by the police. At this time, Hui Seo felt ironic when she heard her mother-in-law's words on stage, but she did not dare to say anything. When Jinpyo's mother saw the wound on Hui Seo's hand, she thought that Hui Seo had fallen again. At this time, Jin Young had just arrived. She said that the tools were ready. Jinpyo began to have doubts. Later, when Hui Seo and Jin Young went to the bathroom, she asked about Hui Seo's friend. Meanwhile, Jinpyo was afraid that the matter would be exposed, so he immediately asked his wife what she had talked about with his sister. Hui Seo had a hard time lying to her husband. Then he forced her to drink more alcohol, but she refused and said that she had to go to the supermarket to buy beets. However, when Jinpyo opened the refrigerator, he saw that it was full of beets. That proved she had lied, so he took out his anger on her by beating her again. That day, Hui Seo was injured all over again. Suddenly Yeonsu called, but Hui Seo refused to answer the phone. At the same time, a delivery man came. Hui Seo was about to open the door to get something panicking when she found Yeonsu standing right in front of her. She was scared and quickly slammed the door shut. But Yeonsu knew Huiseo's house password, so she opened the door and went inside. Yeonsu was heartbroken when she saw Huiseo's body covered in wounds. She immediately guessed that it was the bastard husband who did it. She went into the living room to look for him, but Huiseo quickly stopped Yeonsu and pointed to the camera in the corner. Huiseo pulled Yeonsu into the storage room. Yeonsu urged Huiseo to go to the hospital immediately, but Huiseo said that she fell by herself. At this moment, she just wanted Yeonsu to leave quickly. If her husband found out that her friend had come to their house, she would hardly be able to avoid a beating tonight. Huiseo also tried to resist and try to escape. She even tried to call the police, but all in vain. The day before, Jinpyo took Huiseo to attend an art exhibition. The person in charge of the exhibition was a VIP customer. Huiseo was an art expert, so her husband wanted her to help him win over this customer. Unexpectedly, Huiseo's alcoholism relapsed. She kept drinking glass after glass. This action attracted the attention of the people around her. In her drunken state, Huiseo walked in front of a painting and began to criticize the customer's work. Jinpyo quickly pulled her away, but she protested and said that the canvas had only been primed with one coat. As soon as she finished speaking, she was slapped hard by the customer. Jinpyo saw that his wife had offended the customer, so he quickly took her away. At this point, she was sober. She wanted to go back and apologize to the lady, but she accidentally tripped and fell, making herself look pathetic. To punish Huiseo for her mistake, Jinpyo made her take off her seatbelt. Then he drove like crazy on the road. When he returned home, he continued to torture her and dragged her to bed. When he was satisfied and fell asleep, she decided to do something stupid. Then Jinpyo woke up by a strange noise. He immediately ran out and was terrified by the scene before his eyes. Luckily, he reacted in time. He used scissors to cut the rope and shouted to Huiseo that she could not die. Actually, to him, she was just like an ATM. Somehow, every time he beat his wife, the stock price suddenly skyrocketed. At this time, Jinpyo was about to call the police, but then he thought again and did not call. Because Huiseo's body was covered with wounds, if the police came, it would be difficult for him to explain clearly. He immediately started first aid and luckily she woke up. He roared that he would not allow her to die, because he knew that if she died, his life would be severely affected. Huiseo said that she could endure the beatings, but living under the surveillance of the camera every day, she felt like a monkey in a zoo. She couldn't stand the feeling of being watched. She warned that if he didn't remove the camera, she would continue to do something stupid. Jinpyo finally picked up a baseball bat and smashed the camera. The next day, Huiseo received a text message from Yeonsu. She said that she would find a way to get rid of her husband, but she didn't want Yeonsu to get involved. Yeonsu reminded Huiseo that killing someone wasn't easy. The strength of two people was definitely stronger than one. Yeonsu's words gave Huiseo a lot of strength. She was determined to get rid of her bastard husband. Countless plans popped into her head, and she decided to make a surprise attack to take him down immediately. However, imagination is easy, but reality is very cruel. Huiseo still does not have the courage to do anything to her husband. Meanwhile, Yeonsu accidentally met a man who looked exactly like Huiseo's husband at Sobaek's company. So Yeonsu had a bold idea in her head. Through Sobaek's words, Yeonsu learned that this man's name was John Kang. He was an illegal worker. Maybe he had caused trouble somewhere, so he came here to take refuge. When Huiseo saw John Kang, she was also extremely surprised. This man really looked like her husband. So Yeonsu quickly found John Kang and gave him a large sum of money and asked him to take a trip to China. This time, he could go by plane openly and he would not have to hide anymore. John Kang agreed to Yeonsu's request. The plan was that John Kang would impersonate Jinpyo to fly to China. From then on, his identity in Korea would no longer exist. In this way, they could dispose of the body perfectly. Finally, the day of the plan came. Huiseo lied to her husband that she would go visit her mother with Yeonsu. Unexpectedly, Jinpyo happily agreed this time. So the two women went to a remote forest as planned. They dug a large hole there together. However, what they didn't expect was that Jinpyo was tracking them through a GPS device. After entertaining the guests, he discovered that they were in the mountains, so he hurried home. Luckily, Huiseo had returned home first. Jinpyo immediately asked his wife about the plane ticket. It turned out that a spam message had been sent to his phone. The message was about a hotel deal in Shanghai. At this moment, Yeonsu also appeared. Jinpyo immediately suspected that the two were up to something, so he rushed into the room and searched everywhere. Sure enough, he found a rope under the pillow. Immediately after that, he brutally beat the two women. Yeonsu pulled Huiseo up to run away, but Jinpyo grabbed her hair and threw her to the floor. He started punching and kicking Yeonsu continuously. Huiseo could not escape the beating. In fact, Yeonsu was a martial artist. When she found the opportunity, opportunity, she grabbed Jinpyo's neck. However, in the end, she was still subdued by the man's strength. He used a rope to strangle her. Just when Yeonsu was about to suffocate, Huiso used all her strength to pick up a heavy object and hit her husband's head repeatedly. Each hit was a protest for all that she had endured. Seeing that he was not completely dead, she quickly hit him again. Only when the emotions that had been pent up for so long were released did she feel satisfied. Huiso told Yeonsu to leave quickly. She would stay and bear all the blame. Unexpectedly, Yeonsu said that doing so would make no difference. They were gonna wait until tomorrow when Jang Kan was bestowing going abroad. According to the plan, they were going to bury Jinpyo quietly. At that moment, the doorbell suddenly rang. It turned out that the neighbor downstairs was bringing fruit. Huiso quickly fixed her hair and lied that she had a cold and couldn't open the door. But the neighbor saw the bloody rag and Yeonsu who was hiding behind it. The neighbor's face immediately showed suspicion, but she didn't pursue the matter further and left. At this point, Huiso and Yeonsu decided to act. According to the plan, Huiso took out a large suitcase and put Jinpyo in it. Then they put the suitcase back in the closet. They planned to find a suitable time to move the suitcase. Meanwhile, Sobek heard that Jang Kan was going to return to his hometown, so he started asking which way Jang Kan would go. Because Jang Kan was an illegal immigrant, it was strange that he chose to leave through a heavily guarded border gate. Sobek also deliberately asked if Jang Kan had contacted Yeonsu, but Jang Kan pretended not to know her. Sobek intended to call Yeonsu to confirm, but was rejected by her. Yeonsu immediately contacted Jang Kan. When Sobek saw Jang Kan secretly listening to the phone, he immediately confirmed that these two must have some secret. The next day, Jang Kan came to Yeonsu. After changing his clothes, he looked exactly like Jinpyo. Huiso was still scared when she saw him, thinking that he was her husband. Yeonsu had prepared his passport. She also asked him to carry her suitcase. Then she gave him Jinpyo's Rolex watch. Just like that, Jang Kan left with Jinpyo's body. However, as soon as Yeonsu left, Jin Young arrived at their house. Huiso tried to act calm and opened the door. When Jin Young entered the house, Huiso discovered a trace of blood on the floor. Taking advantage of Jin Young's inattention, Huiso quickly wiped away the blood. Jin Young thought Huiso had a cleanliness sickness. When she saw that her brother was not at home, she intended to drink some water and go home. However, she accidentally stepped on a piece of broken glass. She suspected that it was from the crystal ball. Huiso was immediately startled and quickly picked up the broken piece. After Jin Young received the glass of water, she carefully discovered that their wedding photo was no longer there. Huiso was confused and did not know how to explain, so Jin Young thought that the two had argued again. Meanwhile, Yeonsu went to the airport to meet Jang Kan and put the suitcase in the car. However, when Jang Kan saw two identical suitcases, he could not help but have doubts. Yeonsu was also afraid that she would be exposed. The two got in the car with their own thoughts. Only when Jang Kan was about to board the plane did Yeonsu tell him the password to the suitcase. He curiously opened it and found that there were only a few toys inside. When Yeonsu looked at Jinpyo's phone, she learned that Jin Young was about to be appointed to the presidential office. She was waiting for her background check. However, this process would require an investigation of her family members. Jin Young waited for a long time, but her brother did not reply to her message, so she decided to send another message. She also told her brother to pay attention to his personal life. Immediately after that, Yeonsu threw Jinpyo's phone away. She immediately called Jang Kang to tell him that when he arrived in Shanghai, he had to go through the gate for foreigners. He had to throw away his phone as soon as the plane landed. Huiso could breathe a sigh of relief when she heard that Jang Kang had left. She started cleaning every corner of the house. She also threw away all the things her husband liked, especially the speaker that she hated so much. Every time he beat her, he used it to play music. But after a while, Huiso fell into a state of confusion. She could not hold back her tears. In the evening, the two drove deep into the mountains to bury Jinpyo. Huiso unconsciously rubbed her hands. It seemed that she had suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. On the way, the car suddenly hit something crossing the road. The two were terrified and immediately got out of the car to check. Luckily, they did not hit anyone. Then they found a deserted place in the mountains. Finally, they ended all their suffering. They threw the crystal ball into the lake. Huiso felt regretful for letting her husband die so easily. But anyway, she was free from that devil. She no longer had to live in fear every day. Meanwhile, Jang Kan had also arrived safely in Shanghai. He did not forget to text Yeonsu to let her know. The worries in the hearts of the two were finally completely removed. However, on the way back, they were stopped by the police for inspection. It turned out that there had been a traffic accident ahead. The police discovered bloodstains on the front of their car. Yeonsu quickly explained that they had accidentally hit an animal. However, the police officer noticed Huiso's panicked expression and asked to check the trunk. This time, time. The two of them were really panicking. If the trunk was opened, they would be exposed. Just as the police officer was about to open the trunk, he was called away by his superior. Thanks to that, the two of them were able to escape the situation. Huiseo was finally able to live the peaceful life she had always wanted, although she still couldn't get used to it for a while. At the same time, Yunsu took the car to the car wash to quickly erase all traces of the crime. However, because Jin Young kept calling and her brother didn't respond, she began to have doubts. Huiseo explained that her husband's passport was missing and the luggage was also taken away. Jin Young had to temporarily believe that her brother had gone abroad without notice. After Huiseo hung up the phone, she was still worried. This conversation was a scenario she had rehearsed countless times. Jin Young immediately began to look up Jin Pyo's exit records. The company also investigated Jin Pyo. They discovered that a few days before leaving the country, Jin Pyo had deposited 7.5 billion won into his bank account. According to the department head, Jin Pyo had recently been pursuing a big client. He had finally closed a contract worth exactly 7.5 billion won. The company believed that he had planned to take the client's money and run away. At the same time, Jin Pyo's mother also came to the house. She asked why Huiseo didn't stop Jin Pyo when he left. Huiseo explained that she wasn't feeling well that day. She had taken sleeping pills and fallen asleep. Moreover, he had also run away like that before. Seeing that Huiseo was still in the mood to fry eggs, Jin Pyo's mother complained even more. She was so worried about her son that she couldn't eat or sleep well. Yet Huiseo still had the mood to eat. Meanwhile, Jin Young used her connections to get the surveillance video at the Shanghai airport. Sure enough, her brother appeared in the video. She thought that her brother went to Shanghai to meet his lover. Her mother called right away. Her mother felt that Huiseo was very suspicious because today she cried her eyes out in front of Huiseo. But Huiseo didn't shed a single tear. What surprised Jin Young even more was that Jin Pyo was identified by the company as embezzlement and was suspected of running away with the money. Huiseo pretended to tell the company's leader to give her husband some more time. The two women's plan seemed to have succeeded. Huiseo had always stayed at home, but now that she was no longer tied down by Jin Pyo, she wanted to step out into society and start a completely new life. Hearing this, Yunsu thought of an ideal place. She then introduced Huiseo to work at Sobak's company. Sobak was a little worried. He didn't know if a writer's hands could carry the goods here. Huiseo insisted that she could handle the job. Suddenly, the president changed the subject and announced that John Kang had quit. Huiseo's heart skipped a beat because John Kang was the one she had arranged to go abroad. Sobak finally agreed to let Huiseo try for a month. The next day, Yunsu had just arrived at the company when she received a call from the police station. They hoped that she could testify. Yunsu originally intended to report Director Wan's actions. He was the husband of the rich woman who had done something foolish, but her superiors reminded her that Director Wan was not an easy person to deal with. Moreover, he was a big customer of the store, so the superiors hoped that Yunsu would not go to the police station to testify. In order to keep her job, Yunsu had to compromise. Unexpectedly, when she just got home, Director Wan's secretary was waiting for her with a fruit basket. He gave the fruit basket to her and immediately ran away. She chased after him to return it. When the male secretary turned around, he only saw the fruit rolling on the ground. Meanwhile, Huiseo was still working overtime. By chance, Sobak passed by, saw the scars on her body. At the same time, Yunsu came to pick Huiseo up from work. Seeing Sobak there, she immediately invited him to have a late dinner together. Unexpectedly, they coincidentally met Director Wan again at the restaurant. While Yunsu was in the bathroom, Director Wan entered. It turned out that he came to prevent Yunsu from accusing him of domestic violence. However, she was not someone who could be easily intimidated. She had just killed a violent man, so she was not afraid of the tycoon's threats. She declared that she would definitely report him. The two of them got into a fight in the bathroom. Although Yunsu had learned martial arts, she was still no match for a man. At that moment, Sobak arrived in time. He was about to teach the man a lesson. Yunsu did not want to make a big deal out of it, so she stopped. Sobak. After this incident, Sobak and Yunsu developed a strange friendship. From the first time they met, Yunsu felt that this Chinese president was a good person. Not long after, Yunsu mustered up the courage to go to the police station to testify. For that reason, Director Wan received appropriate punishment. Huiseo gradually adapted to her new life. However, one day, disaster struck again. Huiseo's doorbell suddenly rang. The person standing outside the door was none other than John Kang. She quickly picked up the phone to call the police. She asked him to leave immediately, but John Kang smiled wickedly. It turned out that he knew she killed her husband. He knew that the suitcase he dragged away that day contained her husband's body. He also knew that she was abused by her husband. Huiseo had a hard time escaping from her perverted husband. She never expected that now she would meet another bastard. Jian Kang forced Hui Seo to open the safe, but she kept entering the wrong password. He asked her to find a way to open it. The price he had to pay for keeping the secret was 3 billion won. Hui Seo said that she had no money. Jian Kang angrily threatened that he would go find Jin Young. This made Hui Seo extremely scared. At that moment, her phone rang. She said that her mother-in-law was coming, but Jian Kang still had no intention of leaving. He also told her to tell her mother-in-law not to come anymore. She said that her mother-in-law was suspicious. Maybe her mother-in-law would call the police. Jian Kang took a set of clothes and prepared to leave. He also told Hui Seo that within 5 days she had to prepare enough money. Only then did Hui Seo dare to answer her mother-in-law's phone call. Her mother-in-law asked for news of Jin Pio. Hui Seo lied that her husband had not contacted her. Fortunately, her mother-in-law did not suspect anything. However, the psychological pressure was so great that Hui Seo almost panicked. Suddenly, she felt something was wrong. Jian Kang had encountered the security guard downstairs. The security guard mistook Jian Kang for Jin Pio. He immediately remembered Jin Pio's mother's instructions that if he saw her son, he must quickly report it. At this time, Hui Seo was rushing downstairs. However, when she arrived, it was too late. Jian Kang lied that he needed to go to the car to get his things and asked the security guard for help. Unexpectedly, Jian Kang was also a cruel person. He killed the security guard. At that moment, a couple happened to pass by. Very soon, the police arrived at the Smoke apartment complex. Hui Seo hurriedly packed up her things and prepared to escape. Jian Kang couldn't contact Hui Seo, so he had to call Yeon-su. Only then did Yeon-su learn that Jian Kang had returned. He also blackmailed Hui Seo for 3 billion won. She immediately went home to pack her things and prepare to go to Hui Seo's place. However, when Yeon-su arrived at Hui Seo's house, she discovered that something seemed to have happened. Yeon-su thought that Hui Seo had been murdered, but then she learned that the victim was actually the guard. So she went to Hui Seo's house again, but she quickly discovered that the door password had been changed. Hui Seo's phone was also constantly turned off. Yeon-su had to contact Sobae. Yeon-su learned that Hui Seo didn't go to work today. She also asked about Jian Kang's whereabouts. Yeon-su asked Sobae to text her if he saw Hui Seo go to work. Sobae immediately felt that something was strange, but then he heard from the staff that Jian Kang had returned the day before yesterday. Hui Seo was at the jewelry store, selling all her jewelry. When she got there, she discovered that her phone was turned off. Meanwhile, Jin Pio's mother learned that the security guard at her son's apartment complex had passed away. She immediately asked her daughter to go check on the situation, because she had asked the security guard to keep an eye on Hui Seo before. Hui Seo sold all her jewelry, but she only managed to collect a few dozen million won. This amount was not enough to pay Jian Kang, so Hui Seo planned to sell her mother's house. She even planned to sell her current house. She wanted to collect enough money to chase Jian Kang away. However, Yeon-su was worried that Jian Kang would not keep his promise, so she planned to call him to talk to him directly. Unexpectedly, Hui Seo stopped her. She said that Jian Kang was a cruel person. Yesterday, he killed the security guard because he was discovered. At this time, Jin Young went to the security room of the apartment complex. A man gave her a notebook. In it were several pages of Hui Seo's daily schedule. Jin Young secretly hid those pages. After Yeon-su calmed down and analyzed, she realized that Jian Kang was not actually scary. Jin Pio's phone only had videos of him abusing his wife. Although Jian Kang knew they had killed Jin Pio, he had no concrete evidence. He also could not go looking for Jin Young, because if he showed his face, he would not get the money. Now that the guard was dead, he did not dare to go to Hui Seo's house anymore. Hearing this, Hui Seo was temporarily relieved. The police extracted the apartment building's surveillance camera, but they did not discover anything. Taking advantage of the time when his colleague was on the phone, Jin Young deleted the video recording her brother with the guard. At this time, Yeon-su had just returned to the mall to work, but unexpectedly, Jian Kang had come all the way here. Yeon-su called him out to the stairs to talk. She asked him to leave Korea immediately. However, he used his final trick to threaten her. It turned out that Jin Pio had been tracking Yeon-su's location all along. Traces of that trip to the mountain were left behind. Jian Kang asked them to pay another 100 million won to get the phone back. Yeon-su felt like she was going crazy. Jian Kang not only blackmailed Yeon-su and Hui Seo, but he also used Jin Pio's phone to text the mother. He lied that he was about to be arrested and that he needed her to send him some money. After Jian Kang got the money, he started to spend it on a lavish lifestyle. A security guard recognized him as Sobaek's former employee. So Sobaek was called in to identify him, but he accidentally discovered Jin Pio's phone. He found many photos of Hui Seo inside the phone. Sobaek immediately called Jian Kang's colleague. Sobaek learned that Jian Kang was blackmailing someone. Connecting to Jin Pio's phone, phone, Sobek immediately suspected that Jiang Kang might be blackmailing Hui Seo. Unexpectedly, Jiang Kang barged in. He was angry because his money had been frozen. He began to vent his anger on Sobek. Sobek asked Jiang Kang if he wasn't afraid of a police raid, but Jiang Kang was no longer afraid. Not only did he have money, he also had 2 passports. He now completely disregarded Sobek's words. Sobek recalled Yeon Su and Hui Seo's unusual actions. Combined with Jiang Kang's actions, Sobek began to suspect that something had happened to the 2 women. So, Sobek called the police for help investigating someone. At this time, Yeon Su went to Hui Seo with the determination to get Jin Pyo's phone back. After all, Jiang Kang still hadn't found Jin Pyo's body. As long as they got the phone back, everything would be fine. She hired someone to steal the phone back, so she lied and said she would give him money. She took the opportunity to find out his address. However, she did not expect that he would not cooperate. In the end, Yeon Su had to send Jiang Kang's photo along with an unclear address to the person she hired. The next day, Yeon Su asked someone to open the safe. She found a lot of gold bars inside. Meanwhile, Jiang Kang checked Jin Pyo's phone and he found that the day before Jin Pyo died, Yeon Su went into the mountains and stayed there for 3 hours. The next day, the hired person informed Yeon Su that he had found Jiang Kang. When Yeon Su learned that Jiang Kang was on his way to Gangneung, she suspected that he had discovered the burial site of Jin Pyo's body, so she immediately asked her people to stop following him. At the same time, Sobek also learned about this, but he asked his subordinates to continue monitoring. At the same time, he also hid this from Yeon Su. Jiang Kang was near the location and was preparing to go up the mountain to search for Jin Pyo's body. Not long after, Jiang Kang sent a video to Yeon Su. She immediately felt scared. Jiang Kang had found Jin Pyo's burial place. He announced that tomorrow he would bring digging tools to see if there was anything interesting buried underneath. While Jin Young was stopping at a red light, she happened to see Hui Seo entering a real estate office. She was preparing her house at a cheap price. Jin Young secretly followed Hui Seo. When Hui Seo returned to the apartment complex, she found Hui Seo discussing something with Yeon Su, so she continued to follow them. Yeon Su was about to attack Jiang Kang, so she tricked him out, but Jin Young thought from afar that it was her brother. With a suspicious look on her face, Jin Young continued to follow, but suddenly she received a call from a colleague. Then she returned to the police station. Here she reviewed the video from the airport security camera. She noticed that the suitcase seemed very heavy. At this time, she realized that her brother might have been stuffed into the suitcase. Then, through the phone, she discovered the burial site in the mountains. When she saw the video recording the scene of her brother beating his wife, she immediately understood everything. Meanwhile, thanks to Sobek's help, Yeon Su was able to save her life. However, without needing the 2 women to explain, Sobek understood what was happening because he had previously seen the video of Jin Pyo beating Hui Seo. Sobek thought that a bastard like Jin Pyo really deserved to die. But the current troublesome problem was how to deal with Jiang Kang, so he proactively offered to help them solve this problem. Because after all, Jiang Kang used to be his subordinate. More importantly, Yeon Su and Hui Seo were no match for Jiang Kang. Very quickly, Sobek found a clue. After that, Jiang Kang was taken away by a woman, but where he was, Sobek did not know. It turned out that Jiang Kang was captured by Jin Young and taken to a garage. She did not ask about her brother. She only asked him to hand over the pictures and videos on her brother's phone. She also reminded him to do as she asked, because she knew that he was the one who killed the guard. Then she stuffed a bunch of sleeping pills into his mouth. Meanwhile, Sobek found out the information of the car that kidnapped Jiang Kang. It was the car of female police officer Jin Young. However, Jiang Kang did not call Hui Seo. Sobek thought that Jiang Kang was definitely under control at this time. Jin Young acted faster than they thought. First, she went to Hui Seo's house to investigate any possible clues. Very quickly, she found out from a receipt the shopping mall that Jin Pyo often went to. After Hui Seo returned home, she also realized that someone had entered her house. She realized that Jin Young already knew the whole truth. Sure enough, that night, Jin Young took the initiative to go to Hui Seo's house. She exposed the truth that on the day the guard was murdered, the security camera had recorded Hui Seo's image. The problem was that Jin Pyo's figure also appeared in it. Then Jin Young deliberately said some ambiguous words. She wanted to test Hui Seo's reaction. Then she went straight to the point. She asked Hui Seo about her brother's whereabouts. Hui Seo replied that he was in Shanghai. At the same time, Yeon Su also took the initiative to act. She used the name of a shopping mall employee to go to Hui Seo's mother-in-law's house. The purpose was to find out Jiang Kang's whereabouts. Then she used the excuse of going out to answer the phone to sneak into the underground garage. Very quickly, she discovered that Jiang Kang was locked in the car. Hui Seo's mother-in-law also heard the strange noise, but fortunately, Jiang Kang was taken away safely. immediately. When Sobek learned of the situation, he rushed there. Jin Young also rushed home. She was extremely surprised to see that John Kang had disappeared. When she heard her mother say that Yeonsu had come today, she immediately understood everything. Sobek scolded Yeonsu for her reckless actions. Very quickly, received a phone call from Jin Young. She said that she had investigated all the information about Yeonsu, including Yeonsu's family situation, so she could only ask for help from Sobek once again. Unexpectedly, when Sobek's subordinate was about to take John Kang abroad, he was controlled by Jan Kang. Then Jan Kang forced Sobek's subordinate to take him to a designated location. Then the subordinate was killed to avoid revealing the truth. It turned out that John Kang had contacted Jin Young and said that he knew exactly where Jin Pyo was buried. His ultimate goal was still to get the money. Then Jan Kang led Jin Young to the burial site of Jin Pyo's body. Unexpectedly, what was dug up was just the carcass of a deer. Jin Young immediately attacked Jan Kang without hesitation. Jin Young then sent a photo of the burial site to Hui Seo. She said that she was about to start working at the presidential office, so she didn't want to make things complicated. Even if she brought Yeonsu and Hui Seo to court, her brother wouldn't be able to come back to life. But one of the two had to confess, so Hui Seo secretly made a decision. She decided to take responsibility for killing Jin Pyo alone. Then she went to see Jin Young and said goodbye to Yeonsu. Meanwhile, Yeonsu panicked and went to Sobek. She found out that Hui Seo had disappeared. They immediately went to look for Hui Seo. On the way, Yeonsu was surprised to learn that someone had called the nursing home. That was where Hui Seo's mother was staying. The person had lied and said that she was the granddaughter of Hui Seo's mother. Sobek suspected that the person was Jin Young. Sobek immediately stepped on the gas and accelerated. Sure enough, Jin Young had kidnapped Hui Seo and helped her forge a suicide note. In the letter, Hui Seo admitted that she had killed her husband. After the police compared the recovered surveillance video, they discovered the video that Jin Young had deleted earlier. Only then did he realize that he had been tricked by his colleague, so he called Jin Young again. He deliberately said that he had found her brother's image in the video to test her reaction. She insisted that she had never seen her brother on the surveillance camera. However, the colleague said that he had a testimony proving Jin Pyo's presence that day. This made Jin Young suspect that Hui Seo had leaked this information. Because her brother was not in the country at that time, the colleague then went to see Jin Young's mother. She panicked and called Jin Young for help. Jin Young told her mother not to open the door. When Jin Young saw that Hui Seo was near death, she rushed home. The colleague checked with the immigration office, and he confirmed that Jin Pyo was indeed abroad that day. Moreover, Jin Pyo had left the country a month and a half ago and had not returned yet. Only then did the colleague discover that Hui Seo had lied. He kept texting Hui Seo to contact him, but Hui Seo could not reply to the text messages anymore. The next day, Jin Young went to meet an official. She had a very good relationship with Mayor Min. Then Jin Young drove up the mountain again. Just thinking about Hui Seo's death made her smile with satisfaction. However, when she arrived at the scene, she found that there was no one in the car. This made her panic immediately. It turned out that the night before, when Sobek and Yeonsu went to look for Hui Seo, they accidentally found her in a car on the side of the road. They promptly took her to the hospital. However, when Jin Young arrived at the hospital, she learned that Hui Seo had been transferred. As for which hospital, the hospital refused to reveal it. Jin Young had to use her police badge to force the nurse to provide information. Immediately after, Yeonsu made an appointment to meet Jin Young to warn her that if she touched Hui Seo again, she would not be able to wear that police uniform. At the same time, Hui Seo woke up in shock. She also learned that the police had discovered that she had lied. Jin Young had sent a threatening text message to Hui Seo's phone. Later, Yeonsu also hurried to visit Hui Seo. She felt lucky to have kept her life. During the past month and a half, she finally felt like a human being. It was an unprecedented feeling of relief and peace for her. However, she was still worried. She had a premonition that sooner or later she would be investigated. Later, Yeonsu was suspected of accepting bribes from suppliers, so she was taken to the police station for questioning. The person who interrogated Yeonsu was Jin Young. Jin Young used Yeonsu's parents to threaten her to reveal Hui Seo's whereabouts, but she didn't expect that she herself would encounter misfortune. The police suspected that Jin Young had assisted her brother in corruption and fled abroad. At the same time, she also put pressure on the securities company. Jin Young didn't expect that she would fall into this situation. She immediately lost all reason, so Bak also sent someone to bail Yeonsu out. He prepared for Yeonsu and Hui Seo to leave Korea. Meanwhile, Jin Young rushed home, but she was horrified to find that Jong Kang was dead. An hour earlier, Jin Young's mother had finished drinking, so she was about to go to the storage room to get a new bottle of wine. She found Jong Kang lying on the floor. She thought it was her son. son. But when John Kang opened his mouth to speak, she realized that something was wrong. Although he was wearing Jin Pyo's watch, his voice was completely unlike her son's. John Kang also mocked her and her son. Only then did she realize that her son was dead. She thought that John Kang had killed her son, so in a drunken rage, she used a heavy object to beat him to death. Jin Young saw her mother's horrified expression and immediately understood everything. She began to prepare to clean up the crime scene. Her mother causing this made her extremely angry. She and her mother carried John Kang's body to the car to get rid of the evidence. Unexpectedly, So-bak's men were also following behind. When So-bak received the news, he was about to go there, but Yeon-soo thought that she should finish this matter herself. After So-bak confirmed that John Kang was dead, he agreed to let Yeon-soo handle it. He stayed to take care of Huiseo. Huiseo found out that Yeon-soo had left, so she panicked and ran out as if she had lost her mind. So-bak's men stopped the car right in front of Jin Young. Yeon-soo also drove forward. The collision caused the trunk to open and revealed the body inside. This scene attracted the attention of many passers-by. In a state of confusion, Jin Young crawled out, but she was unable to close the trunk. This scene was also strangely recorded by passers-by. Even her mother was recognized by others. At this time, Huiseo went to the police station to confess. She admitted that she had killed her husband. At the same time, she reported that she had been murdered by Jin Young. The police found evidence that Jin Young had murdered Huiseo through a dash cam. As the case became more and more famous in the media, Jin Young's police career ended. Her mother could not escape the crime. The court then tried Jin Pyo's case. Although Huiseo's motive was domestic violence, and Yeon-soo only wanted to help her escape that situation, in the end, they still could not escape the punishment of the law. Not long after, the two were finally released from prison. They went to Vietnam together to start a new life. The movie ends here. Thank you for your attention and watching. Goodbye, and see you again.